Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at how to deal with short answer questions, right, in economics specifically. Now, look, there are a lot of depth and breadth of questions that could be asked, right, relating to the NESA verb, explain, assess, evaluate, analyze, and also the content, right? Could be anything from topic 1, the global economy, to topic 4, certain policies, right? Now, just in this video today, we're going to be looking at micro policy, so topic 4, and the explain NESA verb. Right, so I'm just keeping things pretty specific so we can make a lot of different videos targeting each one. Right, now probably the best way to deal with this or start this is what students struggle with. So I really find there's a couple of different places that students struggle with. They don't know how much to write and they don't know how to structure their response. I think if you can deal with these two things, then you're largely there, right? So in terms of how much do you write, you're based off the mark allocation. So the example I've done here is reference to a specific product market, explain how one micro reform is going to increase efficiency. This is 4 marks. So when I'm thinking in my head 4 marks, I'm thinking I want to make about 4 substantive points. Now, what do I mean substantive points? I mean sentences that actually answer the question and that actually answer how micro reforms led to increased efficiencies in a specific product market. Now, notice this first sentence I've done in my response. Just briefly, we'll go here. Micro reform through NCP has led to increased efficiencies in the Australian aviation industry. Have I explained how it does? No, this is just really introductory sentence I've done. Kind of a linking sentence to kind of use words from the question and kind of structure my response. Now, you probably don't need this, but just because they're asking for the specific product market, I thought I would give it. And especially this linking sentence is definitely okay in questions that have higher mark allocation, 4 to 7 marks, right? If it was just a 2-mark compare, you don't really have to give a linking sentence. You can go straight into the question. But I'm just going to fleshing it out a little bit because it's a little bit of a long response. But the principle is 1 substantive sentence for each mark is the best way to deal with this. And you're going to be a lot more aligned thinking like that. All right, so that's how much you write. Notice, by the way, how many sentences have I got? 1, or substantive sentences. 1, 2, oops. 2 sentences, 3, 4. So I've got 4 substantive points and 4 marks. So hopefully my points are good enough to get those marks. All right, so that's the length of the response based on the mark allocation. And now looking at how I structure my response. First thing I always do when I look at the question, 2 things, as I said, the mark allocation and the NESA verb. In this case, is explain, right? So we know it's just cause and effect, simple cause and effects. And I wrote simple sentences. I'll come back to that. Now let's go look at my example. As I've done my introductory sentence, given the scope of what I'm going to talk about. The specific product market is the Australian aviation industry, and the micro reform happened through the national competition policy. Now, explain is cause and effect, right? I've broken it up into cause and effect. My purple is my cause. So increased competition was sought in sectors where the government operated monopolies, such as the aviation industry, by removing special provisions that advantage these publicly owned enterprises. Specifically, the removal of the 2 airline industry involved the privatisation of Qantas, which saw the introduction of foreign airlines into Australia's aviation space. So all of this was the cause of the increased efficiencies. Now, I see students doing this as well. Cause and then effect, which I think is more than reasonable, and I actually encourage to use the subtitles. Why? Because we're not trying to just get the answer, we're trying to show the marker we can get the answer. The HSC marker, they're marking tens and hundreds of papers each night. They're tired, make it easy for them. So use subtitles and structures like this, alongside simple sentences. It's not an English essay where things have to be flowery and sound good. Sounding good is one of the last things. Just make sure it's simple sentences with substantive points that use terminology from the syllabus. Monopolies, privatization. That's just 2 ones in cause. Right now, effect. I'm always using words in the question, right? Increased efficiencies. So this competition increased technical efficiency in the Italian market, which led to 7.1% productivity growth for the decade following. Emergence of foreign airline maximized allocated efficiency. This is the effect, have the effect of maximizing allocated efficiency in the Australian market in causing a net 12% unemployment reduction. So this would be, I could include more terminology, structural employment reduction. This indicates an increase in Australia's productive capacity. Probably could have related to increased efficiencies at the end. Why? Because it's words from the question. I can try to relate that back. That would have made my answer even better. Relate to. Okay. So do you see, once again, 2 marks for cause, 2 marks for effect. Use of structures and subtitles is really important as well. Let's go through one more micro question, just from a slightly different angle. So this is another explain, another 4-mark question. So I'm thinking, okay, 4 substantive points, 2 for cause, maybe 2 for effect. That's all that goes through my head before I even start writing. So there's planning that goes on before you start writing your response. And the best students will plan a little bit in their head before they write a response. Okay. So labour market, lowering of cost inflation. So the cause, introduction of enterprise bargaining through the IR Reform Act. This caused, or this allowed for wages to be determined at the price mechanism, where wage outcomes were less centralized through that. Flexible bargaining at the enterprise level. Okay, so allowed cost inflation to be lowered in Australia. This is just using words in the question. It's kind of that linking bit. That's the cause in purple. Now the effect. Firms are able to fund wage increases with productivity increases, mitigating cost push inflation. There we go, directly words from the question. Shown by decrease in underlying inflation. Incentivizes individuals to work harder and upskill, which boosts wage capacity, has a deflationary effect. Supported through average 3% productivity improvements from 1990 to 2010. Now, you could even do a little graph here, the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph, show aggregate supply shifting to the right and how that reduces price. If you had time, you don't have to do graphs in these questions. As long as you have enough substantive points, you can get 5 out of 4, and it might be the best way because it's probably a little bit quicker than doing a graph. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense, right? 2 things I want to emphasize before I finish up. It's the NESA verb that you're looking at for your structure and the number of marks or your mark allocation for how long your structure is. If you have those 2 things and follow some of the principles I mentioned, simple sentences, you'll be a lot closer to getting good marks. All right, thanks guys.